Good morning.
Oh, you started too soon, Simo. See, the thing is you've done this now at least 200 times, and you know that you get started when it says live.
Good
So,
morning.
like, people are going to come into this recording and they're going to hear you halfway yelling into what.
Good morning.
There you go.
REC.
There you go. Oh my God. Oh my God. Welcome to Brunch with REC. I say, oh my God, a couple of times because it's been at least 2 months since the boys, myself, and Simos have been able to connect and do a brunch together. Obviously, they were still happening. So if you're new to our world or you just haven't jumped over to our YouTube page where this is live right now, you'll notice that the recordings are somewhere below us here if you go through our page. But either Simos had to do one by himself or with Tyler, or maybe I did one with Tyler. And so we finally, as the subject line to the email to our little over now, believe this or not, buddy, we're a little over 11,862 people in our community that have been nurtured and connected with for over the last 19 years. It's coming up to 2 decades. And so it's been really, really cool to be part of a lot of people's journeys in terms of creating wealth. And so anyways, before I kind of go into some housekeeping notes that I think are important to cover that's happening for our insiders, our community, what do you got to say about the fact that you and I haven't been able to do this for a little while?
I'm just very happy we're here now. We have a truckload of stuff to go over today. And there's no specific agenda for today. What today is about is we'll talk a little bit about obviously the stats like we always do and what that actually means to people. But we had, more importantly, and I know we're going to housekeeping. More importantly, we had the investor meetup a couple weeks ago at head office, and we had just under 100 people, full capacity. Like, we can't fit. Like, our capacity is 80 people. We had just under 100. Like, people always appreciate getting together. Nobody missed a sales event. This wasn't a sales event or an opportunity. This was a get together for us as investors and for our investor community to actually just chat. Like, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you doing? So everybody was just picking each other's brain. It was the best thing. I love, this is what I live for.
Well, this is where we're shifting, right, brother? We're shifting to, in fact, like, I mean, you said, it wasn't a sales event. It was kind of like a meetup. The truth is, it's branded, and what we call it is an REC investor meetup. There is really no formal conversation, no discussion. So people who have been coming to our events for the last 2 decades, generally what we do is we do a little meetup at the start, and then we go into our boardroom, which holds about 50, 60 people actually, now that it's been renovated. And then we have like a formal conversation on some type of topic. Sometimes it's the stats, sometimes it's how to invest your RSPs into real estate, sometimes it's talking about income, whatever. It can be a myriad of topics. But I think what we're going to be doing now, and this is kind of part of the housekeeping that I wanted to cover, is that at least for the next 3 to 4 months, so for the rest of the year, because the feedback was overwhelming. Like, every single person that was there was asked either by myself, by you, Simos, by Tyler, by Laura, by Luke, by Jesse, by Bobby, whoever, like, in our internal organization, we asked every single person, like, what do you think about this? Is this what you want? Is this what you want to be seeing more of when it comes to REC Canada and the events? And the response was overwhelming, and I was laughing because there was a couple of people who, as on their way out, they're like, yeah, make sure you guys do this. Thanks so much for putting this on, which is obviously humbling and nice to hear. But I chuckled with them. I'm like, guys, I don't think you guys know. For me and Simos, like, we're generally going to eat every evening, and we're generally going to have maybe 4 out of the 7 days of the week, we're going to have a beer or we're going to have some wine with either each other or our families. But, and so for us, it's quite easy to just, hey, say, guys, come on over to our head office, shops at Don Mills and Lawrence, 401 and DVP. Come on over and do that with us, eat with us, have some drinks with us, and let's just have a conversation. Now, what you said was, again, that it wasn't a sales event, but you know what actually ended up happening from there, brother, is that we've had 2 people who've already, like, they're firm in their contract. They're just waiting to close now. And we only put this event on 2 Thursdays ago. And what they've done is they've done actually a joint venture. That's why we started to say, hey.
And that's such a win. That's such a win. Like when people get together, like things happen, and it's just it's awesome to see. It's just awesome to see the synergies, the ethos that our investors share, meaning everybody's looking out for everybody to progress. You never hear someone say something like, oh, that, like, it's always so positive. And to surround yourself with people that share, like, because that's kind of how we look at life. We're extremely optimistic people just by nature. Like, our nature is optimism. We always seek and find opportunity wherever it may lie.
That silver lining, right?
Always, because there always is. It's just, what lenses are you using to look? So in this case, we saw 100 people get together. We put on the wine and cheese. Big shout out to Tina Kevorkian and Kivor Kevorkian for always taking care of our catering. And the way they do it is...
It's not just cheese, by the way, homie. It's not just cheese.
It's definitely not just cheese.
It's a massive spread. It's crazy. Continue, though. Go.
It's just big shout out to, and they're investors. Like, our caterers are investors. So I don't even know, like I'm thankful, I'm grateful. It was just really, really good. I enjoyed it. And we're going to do this again and again and again, because there's no reason to do anything else.
Well, bang on, right? And so that's why we said, look, we can easily say we're going to be able to do this for the rest of our lives, but we also know that sometimes we have to pivot, give what the community is asking for. So I've already laid it out for the whole year. Like, we have events, these type of meetups scheduled. The only month that we're not going to be doing it is this month of August, because, we just find that it's also the time that I take off a few days, Simos takes off a few days, rest of our team, I know Laura's off, I know Tyler's off for a little bit near the end of August. We also know that, like, you guys are not necessarily around, going to the cottage, going wherever. And so August is the only time that we're not going to be doing like an in-person meetup. But come September, October, November, like, we have it scheduled out for everyone, because we also like, you said the capacity of like 90, 100 people, whatever, Simos. I actually think that's perfect for a couple of reasons. Number one, selfishly, we get the opportunity to speak to everyone. When we've done events in the past of 300-400 people, like, you just can't get to everyone, and it's like quick, like, how you doing, how's everything, and then you're on to the next person kind of thing. Where this is like I heard long-winded conversations people were having, not only with us, to the fact that they were having them with each other, and the fact that the 2 people that, like, 2 separate actual joint ventures have been put together and had nothing to do with us, like, at all. I don't even know, truthfully, if they got the property with one of our 65 agents. If they did, great. If not, that's okay. That's not why we put these events on. It's because we've come to realize, as investors, we have to start to scale now. And sometimes getting financing is tough. In fact, that kind of gives me the segue into the other housekeeping note, which I'll touch on in 5 seconds here. But as investors, we need to be able to connect with other people that maybe don't have the capital, but they have the ability to get financing. And this happens literally between Simos and I. So, if you look at the 4 of us, my wife, Simos' wife, myself, and Simos, we have to sometimes, like, readjust in terms of how we're going to get the financing, because maybe there's too many deals under my name, too many deals under your name. And so we have to go, okay, Simos, you partner up with my wife. Okay, your wife partners up with my wife, etc. And so you have to get creative. And the only way to do that is to meet with people, because, look, yes, there's crowdfunding deals for real estate online, but I don't know. I've never really come across personally, and this is just my personal experience, where people have been able to actually do a lot of deals when they're doing them online, because look, doing a real estate deal with someone is some serious business. In fact, it's probably, tougher to get out a real estate deal than a marriage nowadays, right? And so, like, you want to make sure
It actually probably is.
right? You want to know who you're kind of getting into a deal with. Like, you want to meet them face to face. And so the segue I was quickly talking about was, when it comes to financing, another housekeeping note, there's a lot of insiders that are watching this live and or the recording, and you're about to get into the process of closing on your Orlando, I guess I'll call it kind of an Airbnb deal that we had done, I'm going to say about a year and a half ago, 17 months ago. Pretty much 18 months ago. I could be a little off. 2-3 people have already gone through the full closing. I'm personally going through the one that you and I are in together. And so it's not easy. It's not as easy as it's been in the past. And so there's some things that we need to make sure that we stick handle. So please, if you're someone who's purchased and is coming up to the closing for Azure, just send us an email at info@reccanada.com, and we'll make sure we put you in touch with the right people, because there's the financing, then there's the insurance, there's the legal, and because it's not necessarily here in our own backyard, we need to do a little bit more stick handling than usual. So make sure that you get in touch with us. But the other housekeeping note that I think is very, very crucial, Simos, and you need to touch on this, please, which is some of our clients are now also closing in our own backyard for specific pre-construction condos that they purchased 3 years ago. And so the whole property management process, as well as the whole higher level, actually, in terms of closing process, what do people need to do?
Yeah, so what we're doing and what we have done in the past is, for every project that we've ever sold, for every project that we had our community invest in, we put on webinars or meetings. It used to be meetings. Obviously, now it's webinars because everybody's everywhere, where we take our community through the building, the people involved, the professionals involved, and the process. So if you're closing on a new construction condominium that's coming to term and going into occupancy, what does the lawyer do? Where does the financing come in? When does the financing need to be ready? What are occupancy charges? What's your liabilities in the due process? We cover all this in absolute detail on a call with the entire team, meaning REC Property Management is on the call, the lawyer is on the call, the mortgage broker is on the call. Big shout out to Sean Dandywall from RZCD Law Firm, Chris D'Souza, who has become our de facto in-house finance and mortgage advisor. Big shout outs to them. Our HST experts, Michael from HST Relief. So there's so much to it where we take you through in detail. So if you have an upcoming closing, whether it's with us or not, if you're looking for help in understanding the process, schedule a call with our concierge. You can speak to me, you can speak to Jazz, you can speak to Tyler, who is now our VP of coaching. There's a lot of resources available to everyone, and there's never a reason where you should be sitting at home frustrated, or anxious, not knowing what's happening.
And Nikki,
you have us.
And Nikki, you're in the back. Big shout out to Nikki, who's controlling the ones and twos. Can you just do us a favor? Put in the web address, coffeewithrec.com. That's coffeewithrec.com, to what Simos mentioned in terms of having that conversation. It's a calendar. Pick your time, figure it out. There's no cost. We could not, in my opinion, have made it easier. We've been using that system. I'm doing air quotes for somebody who might be listening while they're driving or taking their dog for a walk right now. The system in terms of getting in touch with someone on our team and starting that conversation. Great point about, even if you didn't purchase it with us, we're getting at least 5 to 6 emails in a week about people who didn't even purchase a condo with us, but they have questions and they're going through the process. Thank you, Nikki. Coffeewithrec.com.
Yeah, and for everyone, like whether, and just to that point, we don't care, because our community is so big and so strong Like, if you haven't bought with us, I'm sure one day you will.
Yeah.
And that's why we do it all. Like, there's no grand agenda, there's no nonsense. We do this for a living every day. If you have a problem, call us. In 5 minutes, maybe we'll be able to get rid of your anxiety. If
Exactly.
you have any. If not, you're no further behind or ahead than you were before. So
Yeah, it's so true, right? Because sometimes
take your time.
we get the panic emails, right? And
Yeah.
not to say that we have all the answers,
No.
but something that we've been practicing for the last 19 years is look, we won't necessarily have all the answers, but we generally, and I mean like 99% of the time, know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that has the answers. And so all of that is free. And somebody might say, well, nothing in life is free. I get it. And to what Simo said, look, we play the long game. At some point, we know if we're the people who are trying to help you, we didn't charge you up front for something. We're there for you from a concierge perspective. Like if you need a plumber, electrician, painter, landscaper, at some point, 6 months from now, 6 years from now, 16 years from now, both Simos and I have, anywhere from, I'm going to say 7 to 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and one of them or two of them or all four of them will probably be on a brunch in 10 years from now doing this.
You think so? I bet you one of our kids is going to end up here.
Well, somebody's going to try. Well, hopefully,
Somebody's
anyways. And if not, we have the Tylers of the world, and these guys are going to, pick up and run with it. I mean, Luke, one of our new construction experts, the kid's 23 years old, but you would never be able to tell that he's only 23 years old. That we know if we're the ones who are helping out and reaching out, and you're reaching out to us. It's very easy, the Coffee with REC. We know at some point we'll do business either with yourself or a friend of a friend of a friend or a family member. And so I think we touched, look, man, 17 minutes in, brother. We've really went longer than usual in terms of housekeeping notes. And so why don't we just jump into i.e. the stats, for example, that we wanted to touch on. But also I want to open it up to everybody because you said it at the start. We really don't have an agenda today. It's a long weekend here I think it's, is this a provincial one or like a federal one?
I don't know.
I never know. This one always throws me off, Civic Day. Like, things are open, things are not open. Anyways, maybe you're watching at the cottage right now, and if you're live and you have questions, maybe you're going through something in terms of a deal, or you just have a question. Maybe you're looking into buying your first property. What you can just throw in the questions in the comments, and our boy Nikki in the back can see them and he'll bring them up. It's really an open forum today, but excuse me, see, most of the stats for July just came out on Friday. Boom, great job.
Yeah, so I have them up, and I mean there's really no surprises here. Prices are up year over year. Activity is up year over year. Last year, obviously, 2022 was a year we experienced 10 or 9, I believe, in 2022 interest rate hikes, with the Fed trying to obviously overcome its trying to undo the damage it caused during the pandemic. And with inflation and everything else. So this year is really not that different. What is important, and because I don't want to talk nonsense and gibberish with numbers, I want to talk about what's on the screen and how does this impact people. What does this mean to John and Susie on Main Street that are looking to either buy a home or sell a home? Okay. So
those are two completely different things, eh? Like Simos, like if you're a buyer or a seller, this means completely two different.
And if you're an investor, it means something completely different. So let's break it down. So this is the GTA market stats that we're looking at. GTA. This is where we live. This is the economic engine of the country. So if anybody from Vancouver is watching, pay attention, because your market is 99% a carbon copy of this one. Just a little bit pricier, actually.
Yeah.
So, but what is happening on the street matters. So what does this mean to a buyer? Well, to a buyer, the most important part of it all is this: 2.93 months of inventory. There is a lot of names for this stat. It can be called an absorption rate. It can be called standing inventory rate. It can be whatever you want to call it. If there was no homes listed tomorrow, and for the rest of time, within 2.93 months, the existing inventory would be swallowed up. What does that mean? We've never seen a number this high for months of inventory in Toronto in years. This means that people are not transacting. This means that the actual market is slow. Volume is slow. The reason for it is very simple. Buyers are scared to act, are not willing to put or not able to absorb the inventory because there is a ton of demand. But here we are with 3 months of inventory. And the reason for that is the latest increase. It just froze the market. It froze it. So anybody can say whatever they want. This is fact. The numbers never lie.
Now, I also wanted to just quickly touch on that months of inventory as well from a couple of different perspectives. Number one is if you are, again, a home buyer or home seller, this means two different things to you, right? Because if you're thinking about purchasing a home for whatever reason, it might be because you are looking for that first condo or property. You're an investor who has capital and you're like, look, I've invested in real estate before. I kind of understand the fact that it goes up and down, upwards. There's some dips. I want to place some money. I want to park some money. If you're one of those people, this is actually maybe a positive, right? Because that there's more inventory than we've seen in the full GTA when it comes to months of inventory, 3 months essentially. I haven't seen this number like this for the last at least 5 to 6 years, probably even a little bit.
So Jazz, just to prove a point, because it's on the same slide.
Yeah.
Look where my mouse is. Do you see my pointer?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So in 2020.
Yeah.
Right now we have 15,000 active listings across the GTA.
Yep.
In 2020 we had 15,000 listings across the GTA.
Yeah.
Okay. With 2 years and 10 interest rate increases.
Yeah.
The average price in 2020 was $943. Right now we're at $1,120,000.
Yeah.
So even with a year and a half of 10, 11 interest rate hikes, prices are still up. There is nothing you can do to contain a market with this much demand. And it's not because we're bulletproof in the GTA. It's not bulletproof. The dynamics are out of whack. The dynamics meaning the demand is so significant that it keeps the market where it is. The point I'm trying to make, in 2020, the same time we had 15,000 listings, there was 11,000 sales.
Yeah.
So the months of inventory were 1.3, obviously, if you just divide the two numbers. In this case, we have 15,000 active listings, but instead of 11,000, it is less than half. Less than half. That is the volume. That means that with the same amount of listings, you have no activity. 5,000 people in a market of 8 million people is a joke.
Well, that was kind of going to be my second point, right? Like, you have, and I don't know if it's 8, like this GTA is probably closer to 6.67 million, right? Sure. I don't think we've hit the 8, so call it 7 million for argument's sake. And if nobody puts another home up for sale, it's all absorbed in 3 months. And so that's why you still see those prices go up. But you're skipping, which I love, because if you can do me a favor, Simos, and go to Durham for a second.
You got it.
Perfect. And so as a home seller, overall in the GTA, you look at it and you will notice that, okay, well, if I'm going to sell my home now, I have more competition. Like it's also going to stay on the market a little bit longer because buyers have a little bit more choice just by looking at the months of inventory. But now if you're a home seller, possibly in Durham, you'll notice that the months of inventory is below the 2-month period, which it doesn't matter which way you slice it and dice it. That's a hard and very aggressive seller's market still. Yep. Sellers have the advantage in Durham. And so you'll still see in specific pockets in Durham, because Durham's quite large as well, right? You have the whole Ajax, Whitby, kind of Oshawa markets
Well, prices are up almost 7% over July last year.
There you go.
So
right.
if you bought last year and you're buying this year and you said, prices are going to come down because of interest rates, you're wrong. Unfortunately, prices are up 6.7% over July last year. And months of inventory almost at 2 months. If you can look right here for everyone, still a seller's market territory.
Now, I want to compare that to something. If you can go back to Brampton, not because that's where I'm sitting right now and where all my paisans are. It's because Brampton tells us a pretty interesting story. Because if we were to, and just essentially take our word for it, guys, but we can always send you this stuff very easily. If you look at, we're in right now, this is July stats. So if you look at anywhere from February stats, like the month of February, all the way to the month of May, you would have seen this number at one point under 2 weeks of inventory, but it was generally floating around a month's of inventory. And so it was a very, again, aggressive seller's market. But you look at it now, like it's creeping up to 4 months. So you can't even, again, it doesn't matter which way you want to slice it and dice it. This is a very, very balanced market, but its trajectory is that it's going into a buyer's market. Actual metric that you want to look at to see if it goes into a buyer's market is essentially about 5.5 months of inventory. I'm not sure if it's going to get there. I would actually be a little surprised if it does, but not to say that it can't for a couple of months. And once it gets to something like 3.86, whatever it is, 4 months, 4.5 months, this is the area that you might want to consider when you're purchasing, because again, you have more choice. You will have more choice because sellers are still going to need to, some sellers who are on the market as a home buyer, you need to know that they're not on the market in terms of a for sale sign because they're testing it. They're doing it because they need to sell. They bought something else. Maybe they're downsizing. Maybe they're leaving the city, whatever. I mean, again, another myriad of reasons, but that's when you can actually deploy a strategy that probably comes around, I'm going to say once every, we've been doing this for 19 years. I've probably seen this in the 19-year time, maybe off the top of my head, 8 to 9 times. Well, you're going to say 2 times. I'm going to say about 8 to 9.
No, to go into a buyer's market, I've seen it 2 times.
And what I'm saying, it was not necessarily the buyer's market, Seamus. What I was saying, deploying the strategy of putting out a bunch of offers.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't have done this 6 months ago or a year ago.
Well, no, because there was nothing to do it on.
And every seller is going to say, get the heck out of here. Every agent's going to say, who's ever representing.
I also don't kid yourselves with 60, average days on market is 16 days. That's a joke.
Yeah, that's not a lot either. Yeah,
that's not a lot. So this tells you that this is an educated market. So I don't know how to break this down for people. Nonsense doesn't work in the GTA, meaning that everybody's been around for a minute. So if you're going to go to market, even with almost 4 months of inventory, average days on market is still 16. So people are pricing where they need to price. The people who want to sell will sell because they're going to establish what market price is. But you might also have people now slowly not being able to afford all those interest rate hikes. Maybe some people just want to pull the chute, say, you know what, get me out of this market. I don't want to be a part of it. I'll rent for a few years and reevaluate my situation then.
Because not a bad strategy either.
Not a bad strategy either. There's no reason to have anxiety if you can't handle the ride.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You're not soft for it. If you're not enjoying the ride, get out of the car. It's okay.
Yep.
And what we see here is this. Look, total sales are down to 10% less sales, but active listings, 150 almost more listings, meaning they're up 10%. That meaning people are looking to get out. And that is where, when Jazz says put in some offers, get your savvy agent to understand the market. We have ninjas in Brampton. Sumit closes anything and everything in sight in seconds. For those of you who have never met Sumit, For example, one of our agents in practice, like out of Brampton, he practices everywhere, obviously, but he is one of the best agents I have ever met in my day.
Because he came, hey bro, but because back home he would negotiate it over apples, my man. Like that guy. So
No, but
like he knows what he's doing.
this guy just works, man. Like like I send him to meet one of our insiders to list their home. He listed 3 homes on the street within a week.
And sold them.
Like the guy's nuts. So, anyways, for those of you who want someone to navigate that market for you, Jazz does not have the capacity to go on the street. We're running a 60-man team. But if you want to see what the difference between agents, even on my own team, we have guys and gals on this team that'll blow your head. Like, it's incredible what they do and their deep insight. That's what you need to navigate a market that is month to month shifting so much.
And they have the patience, right? They have the patience. And I'm not talking necessarily about like, I don't want it to, let me rephrase this. I don't want people to hear this as like, oh, we're saying use one of our guys. We think there's a vested interest in you using one of our guys because they're going to speak the same language myself and Simos are speaking. They're cut from the same cloth. But make sure that your agent understands that you have to have the patience in this market in areas like a Brampton. Really, I mean, right across the GTA, the only place that I saw that you wouldn't necessarily be able to deploy that strategy and it being effective, you might get lucky, is Durham, for example, because I still think that the seller has the upper hand over there. But anywhere else, guys, like just make sure your agent is savvy enough. I love that you use that word because we speak about it all the time. Make sure if you're working with an agent when it comes to investing into real estate, they need to be savvy when it comes to real estate investing. They have the patience to throw a bunch of offers at the table. Because look, a seller who's on the market right now, look, we have the 60 agents data, but we also have 1,500 agents data in our organization of Royal LePage signature, right? And so like we really got the feet to the ground. There's not a lot of people who are putting up homes right now that just want to test the market. So if you know that they're on the market, they need to sell. You put in an offer, you don't, you find out what kind of market, what's going to be market value, and go under market value, and then wait. And then here's a quick strategy if you're even wanting to do it on your own. In an offer and an agreement of purchase and sale, there's a line which essentially spells out that time is of the essence, meaning like you can't just have an open-ended offer forever without some type of irrevocability is the exact line. And so in that, I would make it irrevocable for, you put in an offer today on a Sunday, make it irrevocable till even 5 p.m. tomorrow. Show the seller, take your time. I really don't care when you get back to me. They come back to you, they're also now going to either leave that irrevocability time as the same time. So in this example, till 5 p.m. tomorrow, let it die out. Don't even go back to them. Do nothing. Let it all die out. Because if that agent on the other end representing the seller calls you back or calls your agent back, you know that you have maybe something brewing. And then let it sit for maybe another day. Don't even go back on Tuesday. Go back on Wednesday and go back with an extra $7,500, 10 grand. Like you really got to have the patience this market because people are going to come out of this market with some steals because sellers need to sell.
And vice versa. So you just spoke to somebody being potentially an investor or a buyer. If you're buying for yourself and your family, you have a different dynamic than an investor does. So for investors right now, when we see increasing inventory without absorption, that is everything that excites us as investors, meaning that we can leverage this data and try to put in all the offers, play games, do all the things, and try to win a price. But what if you're a seller right now? If you're a seller, how do you not get played by a savvy agent? What does your agent have to do to protect your interests? And again, like every single day, we have to wear a different hat in the morning for a buyer, and then we have to wear a different hat for a seller in the evening.
Same hat, you just turned it around backwards. But I get it. But your mindset changed when you put it on backwards. I get it.
So what do we do? So let's give some examples of, again, when you have to represent the seller in a market that has these indicators. What do I do when Jazz walks into my office and says, hey, Simeon, I have an offer for you. I don't know how serious we are because he wants to play his game. He wants to take me down. What does Simeon do to protect Joe, the seller? How do I create urgency to Jazz and turn him around and say, get this offer in before this house goes? Don't play your games with me, Jazz. So what do I do? What do I say? Well, let me tell you how that works. And this is why, again, the agent that represents you matters. It just matters. You need to have people that are experienced through this. Because if I'm representing a brand new listing in Brampton right now, that the market is approaching almost 4 months of inventory, it's looking balanced almost to a buyer's market. What do I do with Jazz? What do I tell him? I tell him I separate myself instantly. First and foremost, Jazz, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. You're not the first one here. I just spoke to other agents as well. I know there's a lot of properties hitting the market right now, but none of them are like my client's property.
Mm-hmm.
What makes my client's property unique? Well, A, B, C, and D. I'm going to take a look through the features. This is what makes my property. If your client wasn't interested in my client's home, you wouldn't be here. So don't you play your games with me that you can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be here? You want this house? Let's you and me make this happen. But we got to do it with something that works for both. So I instantly, I separate my property. I outline that you're here because nobody made you come here. So I remind you why you're here. And then I will tell you that in the spirit of fairness, let's come up with a strategy that works for both our clients. What does that message send to Jazz? Jazz is not an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be like, all right, you want to play the spirit of fairness? That's fine. But now we're engaged. We're talking. Now we're negotiating. Now our clients are thinking there's a sale looming. That is the spirit of deal making.
Mm-hmm.
And there is not like if Jazz were just to email me or just text me, like we don't do those things.
And we see that happen so much when we're
when
we're protecting the seller or the buyer. The agent just doesn't want to necessarily get on the phone, which is interesting because we're the cross-pollination of our conversation right now is going to hit home for a lot of agents that are also in our community, right? Like we have a lot of realtors as well, part of our community because of all the content that we do and brunches like this. And so if you're one of those agents, make sure that, like, we come from the old school. We love the new school stuff. Don't get me wrong. Technology is amazing. Like, I do everything that I do on a phone. I'm running this whole webinar kind of on my end on a phone right now. And so I love that. But don't get it twisted. Like, we come from the time where you have to do offers on the trunk of a car, and the word of meeting of the minds, the term, I think actually came from like real estate. I could be wrong there, but it was like, hey, when can we meet at the kitchen table? Because we know as agents, the most important decisions in people's homes without like a salesperson involved, a real estate agent, an insurance broker, or whatever it is, a mortgage broker, you generally have those conversations with the two partners in the home. Have those conversations at the kitchen table. And so it's always about, hey, when can we get face to face? Because a lot more this is great. Even today, it's great, this webinar. But man, like when we do something in person, like those investor meetups, it goes to the next level, right? So as an agent, you're representing the seller. Look, I know the easier way is to say, hey, just email me the offer, and we used to say fax me the offer back in the days. Right. But there's something, especially if you're a seller and as an agent and as a wholesaler, almost demand it from your agent. Say, you know what? Can you tell that buyer's agent, the buyer's agent, to present that offer to us tonight at 7 p.m. and make the suggestion to him or her that he should bring his buyers there. Now, as an agent and a seller, if that agent shows up, like Simos used the example as the office, but let's just say they did show up to your home and present that offer and they have the buyer outside, chances are they're ready to make a deal. And so that first offer of $650,000, they might start to increase that number. They're outside, right? And so make sure that you're doing the best that you possibly can to present these offers face to face, because that's the market that we're in. And that's not only for the agents, that's for the home buyers and the home sellers. Like, if you're ready to make a deal or you want to sell, you need to get people face to face as much as possible.
Yeah, man. So I think we really, I think we did a good job of explaining what's happening. I feel good about it. For anybody watching, if you don't think we did a good job, or if you still think we need to cover something, please shoot a quick comment, a DM, or post a comment. It doesn't matter to us, with what you want us to touch on more. It's just that simple.
That's it.
So for as far as that goes, other than that, we are seeing a few things in the market that I wanted to cover. Not a lot. Like, we're at 40 minutes. I want to go off maybe a couple more minutes.
Do it up.
Because it is everyone's Sunday of the long weekend, and I'm going to enjoy it. It's a glorious day outside, so we'll enjoy it. But a few things in the marketplace, guys, is again, what are people expecting for interest rates? There's people that have those adjustable mortgages, those adjustable variables that are really hurt right now. I've had some big conversations with lots of our insiders of, just like, oh, like, my portfolio used to be cash flow positive, and now I'm bleeding X. And I just did a REAP. I was on the phone with Brian and Elaine. And we're making adjustments to their portfolio, just like me and Jazz are making adjustments. Me and Jazz might be selling a few of our downtown properties in order, not because our properties are not cash flow, because we bought those back when they were $200,000 and $300,000, so they're fine. But we're going to sell those just to have dry powder, because we think there's going to be opportunities coming up. And what we mean by opportunities, when we see inventory levels rise, and we're going to a buyer's market, well, guess who's a buyer? Right here.
First and foremost.
First and foremost. Yeah. So we're not joking when we say you need to pivot and adjust. So if you feel that you can benefit from a REAP, a real estate action plan, or an update, like Jazz and I, when we were at the investor meetup, when we went to the back office, I was like, hey, bro, what do you think of Bayview and Harris Square? Should we off them right now? He's like, really? We should really get rid of them? Like, those are like our babies. Like, we bought them for nothing. It wouldn't hurt to have $500,000 in the bank right now to take a look at what's out there.
And even after we were really quickly even talk, like we spoke about it for like 5 minutes, and then we said, hey, let's set up another time where you and I can
let's sleep on it.
It was, let's get our $500,000 liquid. And if we see something from the perspective of like a multiplex, we can take a look at what the numbers are. But also, one thing that, I've been thinking about since you and I spoke that day is, there's going to be some pre-construction condos that the builders are going to throw incentives at us left, right, and center. They're all kind of,
and we're seeing it. We're seeing it.
I was going to say, there's a couple of them out there now. I actually think, because majority of the builders are probably still on vacation, or they're heading out right now, because that month of August is kind of that. When they come back in September, I think we're going to have a bunch of them out there that, holy crap, these incentives are fantastic, and it's not closing. Here's what I really wanted to drive home. And this is why I think we could go liquid and then start to invest, maybe $100,000, $200,000 into a pre-con where it's closing in 2026, 2027. I have a funny feeling we're not going to be having rate conversations necessarily at where we're seeing rates right now at that 5.5%.
No.
They're flirting around. And so you can actually also use that strategy where if you have cash to deploy and you're like, okay, I believe the real estate, I believe in the real estate market, I believe in investing into real estate, but I just don't like this rate shit. It's way too high. We understand it. We're going through it as well. But a strategy might be to defer your closing and actually getting a mortgage.
You got it, and I couldn't agree more. For September, I am actually working on a couple deals that we may or may not be able to put together, but I'm working with Marlin Spring. They're going to have Joya coming up, and I believe that's a Graybrook project as well. I think.
How many things have we done with Marlin Spring?
And Graybrook.
The salt of the earth people Big shout out to Aaron
Big
Miller.
shout out to Aaron Millard, Benjamin Baxt, Rue. Their entire team is phenomenal. I'm working with them. We might have product there in the 11 to 1200 territory, which that is unheard of at this point. Everything's launching at 1400 plus. So
in Toronto,
working on it. This is Toronto proper. This is 416 on the Queensway. Again, we've sold the crap out of the Queensway, meaning that is a corridor directly on the subway line, directly in employment nodes, 5 minutes from downtown. So we believe in it, obviously, which is why we've sold it. Shout out to REC Property Management, Katie and Gevic. They've leased almost half at this point in less than 30 days. Half of 24 units that we sold at the Taylor. And come on, man, like they're doing it's just a great neighborhood. So I'm working on a few things. That would be a launch. And from an incentive perspective, for everybody who remembers, to all of our insiders who bought at Design District, for those who didn't, that's in a Hamilton project. Ooh, who's that little cutie? Little Sai.
You saw him through the glass eye. He was
so cute.
His buddy's knocking on the door to play basketball. They're like,
so cute. We're working with Emblem Developments to get potentially an exclusive release to us of some units. They are fourth in inches on getting their financing.
This is Design District in Hamilton?
Design District in Hamilton. They're breaking ground August 29th. I'll come back from Greece on the 31st, so I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
So the ground break, for everybody to know, they're going forward in building, but they are at fourth in inches with their financing, meaning they're self-funding because they're starting. It's too big of a project. So they're going ahead, and this is the biggest project in Hamilton's history.
We've had 20 investors, my brother, and not just like my brother from another mother like Simos, but I mean like my blood brother purchased in there, my in-laws purchased in there, like specifically that project.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get us one more block of units because they had closed off sales. If we get it, those are going to be loaded. It will be exactly the way we had structured before. For those who don't know, we were able to negotiate an exclusive bulk deal where all our clients got $25,000 on closing. It was some incredible incentives. That's what I'm working on. If we can get one more block there, that would be amazing. And of course, the brand new launch in Toronto with Joya from Marlin Spring and Greybrook. That's what I'm working on.
As usual,
September, October. We'll see.
If you want, if you need to let us know, if you're watching right now, live or the recording, you have to just let us know that you're interested. You're not putting money down. You're not tying yourself to anything. It's just that what happens is that when Simo says like a block might only be 6 units. It could be as upwards of 13 units, but sometimes it's 6 units.
It's whatever we get. So if they need 10, they'll give us 10.
And but what's important, like I wanted to mention that Simo says like at the come full circle. I started the conversation today saying we have a little over 11,800 people in our community, right? And so when we get 6-8 units, usually now Luke Leasing, who's head of our pre-construction division, he'll come on and do a webinar, and we will always have I don't want to say always will because, I don't know the future, but we always have sold out whatever block that we have because of the community being so large. And so just let us know, like by sending the email info@reccanada.com. That's probably like the starter point. I think the best thing to always do with us is go to coffeewithrec.com because that's where there's like a deep dive, and it's essentially like a financial checkup from the neck up, guys. It's a 20 to 25 minute conversation. This is where we get a better idea of what you're trying to accomplish long term. We'll show you some options that might help, and maybe we can also help with that. I emphasize might because we can't help everyone. And then if it's a match, great, we'll move to the next step. If not, you wasted 20-25 minutes of your lives, and hopefully the coffee was on us, even if it was virtual. Some way, somehow, we'll figure that out. I got access to Simos's credit card, so we'll figure it out some way, somehow. And so it's, like I said, it's 20-25 minutes. But then that actually really gives yourself a better idea of, If that strategy of investing into a pre-con, a multiplex, investing your RSPs into real estate is even an option, because why have the anxiety if you're not going to be able to do something, or it just doesn't fit your portfolio? And so get started with that coffeewithrec.com, because then the coaches led by Tyler Walburn, he will, and the rest of the coaches will figure out if the next time we come up with a project, if that made sense, you'll be one of the first people that we give a call to, and then you say yes or you say no. It doesn't
That's
really
right.
matter.
It gives you the option.
That's
It
what
gives
it
you the
is.
option to be front of the line. That's all there is to it. It's
That's it.
that simple. You never have to do anything. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you like it, you'll be at the front of the line and ready to pick it apart when it comes. That's
okay. And really quickly, I'm gonna sign off. Like, I'll sign off, and then you do the final sign off. If you're right now watching live, or you're watching this recording, that means you got an email sent to you with the recording, but you actually are watching on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, it takes you 2.3 seconds to just press that subscribe button. And the reason I ask for that is not for us, it's because you'll get notifications in the future of new stuff that comes on that page. Like, you're already here, just press subscribe. If it's red, that means you're not subscribed. A lot of people think, I'm already subscribed to the pages, but I have a separate page. Simos has a separate page, so there's confusion sometimes, and we apologize for that. But we like the sound of our own voices and like to do a lot of video and have a ton of pages. So if you look right above this video, if it's red, that means you're not subscribed. If it's not red, that means you already are, and we appreciate you. Because if you're watching live or watching this recording, it's going to take you the 2.3 seconds to do that. I want to say to you, brother, have an amazing, amazing weekend. Just before we went live, I saw your little man, and so I know you're going to start, doing your thing with the fam. I got some errands to run with my fam, and so I'm going to enjoy this beautiful weather in Toronto, wherever you guys are watching right now. Hopefully, you have nice weather. Either way, enjoy the rest of the Sunday. If it's a long weekend for you, enjoy the rest of your long weekend, and reach out to us if you need anything. info@reccanada.com. I love each and every one of you.
Everyone, just have a tremendous weekend ahead, coast to coast. Enjoy the ones you love. Be safe, have fun, and reach out to us if we can help on anything at all. Sending that love. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Nikki.